But I want to ask you about Justice Together.
Yeah, man. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I was not on the internet, for lack of a better word, during that phase. So I've had to do a lot of research on it, and listening to you and listening to others. And I guess I only have one simple question, and it may not even be a, well, I'll let the audience decide what kind of question it is. Here's my question. I've read extensively your I don't want to call it an explanation, but it's documentation of how things went down, how things came apart, and your accountability for your role in it. And yet there still seemed to be a dissatisfaction with that. I understand organizations starting with great potential and not meeting that potential. That happens every day in America, right? And it happens so many times. I've done it myself. But the accountability and the transparency that I felt that you tried to bring,
That's right.
Still felt like there was a big gaping hole in the hearts of the people that were working with you. And I want to know, what do you think about that gaping hole? Is there a gaping hole? And what would you say to the people who still feel slighted by Justice Together? And I'm sorry to my audience, if you guys don't have all the information, you're gonna have to do like me and just go research. We're not going to explain the whole story today.
Yeah. Well, let me give it a little context, man. I'm glad you asked me about it. And I have very sincerely tried to be as like open and informative about every mistake and every success that I've had. Like, I've tried to be like as forthright about it as I could. The concept for Justice Together, which I still think in theory is a beautiful concept. Like, even thinking about it now almost makes me want to go try it again. The idea was that I believe there are millions of people in this country who are frustrated about injustice, but don't know what to do about it.
Right.
And they look at the people that are doing something about it, and they don't quite feel like, okay, I don't think that's how I'm going to do it, but I'm bothered, I'm troubled, I'm concerned, I'm frustrated. What do I do? And that came, at first it came from a lot of people in my own personal network. Professionals, people in careers who actually had money and resources to make a difference on these issues, even political connections, but just felt like, I don't know if protesting or doing sit-ins or die-ins or marches, I don't know if that's the thing for me. So the concept for Justice Together was to bring together at least thousands or tens of thousands of those people. And we were going to create basically chapters in all 50 states and every major city around the country. And I think the spirit of that, the idea of that, is really good. And it should have been able to happen. The problem is we were doing all of that virtually and managing teams, if you will, of people all over the country that I had never met and had never met me. And it became really difficult for me personally to know who was real and who wasn't. And we started noticing right away that some of the people who said they were A, B, or C weren't that type of person. We started noticing, like, even on white supremacy boards and others, people posting our emails and our private messages and stuff there. So I got to a point where I had a hard time emotionally knowing who is real here. Like, who can I trust and who can't I trust? And then two things happened right in the middle. 3 days before we got ready to launch Justice Together, Breitbart and others launched this big attack on me about my race. And it was no small thing. It was literally the top news story in the country for 2 days. And that threw me for a major loop, not just during those 2 days, but it threw my family and I for a loop for several weeks. And until you experience something as crazy as having that level of media focus on you, it would be hard for people to understand how that could throw you for a loop. But then something else happened. And after we launched Justice Together, I began seeing right away that I was going to have a really difficult time managing it because I got hired by the New York Daily News. And so between my personal challenges with the issues about my race and background and the media focus, my struggles of knowing who I could trust among a lot of these virtual volunteers, if you will, and then taking on this new career path of New York Daily News that I didn't seek that job out. They recruited me and I took the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
It became clear to me right away that I was going to really struggle to make something competent and something that could withstand muster and scrutiny. It was clear to me that I was going to struggle with that. Mm-hmm. And so we moved on. And a lot of the people there really wanted to hold on, man. My family making weird faces and stuff at me back in the back. I'm sorry, man. I thought they were trying to get my attention, but it just became difficult, man, for me to push through that phase and still manage it with the integrity that it deserved. And so when I stepped down from that, it was not a lack of heart, but it was actually because of my heart and my desire to do it in a way that I thought could withstand scrutiny and honor the work that we were trying to do. Yeah. It needed somebody who could do that and that alone. Mm-hmm. And so I had to make a strategic decision to either close it down and, just completely close it, and which we did, like legally, physically, completely shut it down, or pass it on to some of the people who said, hey, we want to do this. But because I didn't really know those people, I struggled to feel like that was okay. My hope was whatever work we had done, if they wanted to do that on their own, they could, but not under this legal entity that we started. It was because Justice Together was not just a name. It was a legal 501c3. It had a board. It had, it was an actual operation. And even for our board and others, I feel like the best thing for us to do was to close it.
Yeah. Yeah. I identify with that on so many levels, not on a national level, but on your commitment to starting something for the good of the community and having to walk away from it because of personal reasons. And it usually is tied to career reasons, right? I've had to walk away from something very similarly. So when I saw it going down and I was reading about it, I could identify from the perspective of your lens, because I've been in that lens, just not for the rest of the world to see. And
here's what I try to tell people, man, is that I paid the worst price for shutting it down. Like, as frustrated as people were for themselves and as hurt as they were for themselves, I took a really big public hit. Mm-hmm. Like I took a lot of criticism for it. Yep. So I took the brunt of that hit, and I knew that was coming, but it was also an emotional death, if you will, for me. It was something that I wanted to do. Yep. It's something to this day that I still feel very strongly about, that we have not been able to turn a corner to get a mass of America behind some key issues. And a lot of people, they care and they're bothered, but we haven't been able to turn that corner. And that's what I hope Justice Together could do. And I've just owned it, man. People ask me about it when I speak, and it was a failure on my end to manage that with everything else. And I wish it had gone differently. We literally refunded every single donation mm-hmm. that anybody ever gave to us, which and when we did that, I thought, like, okay, once we refund every donation, like every single dime, even people who gave $1 or $3 or whatever, I thought that would shut down a lot of the criticisms, but it didn't, and so we did our best.
That's really the crux of my question was, reading your accounting for it. Because you've been pretty transparent, and you're even transparent now in terms of your part in shutting it down and the need to shut it down for you. You're owning it. So not only did you own it, but you also gave great accounting for what happened. So then my question still remains. What do you say to those people who still feel like Shaun King, I hate to use it, but it was out there for like hell for a month. Shaun King let me down. They still feel like that. What do you want to say to them?
Man, you know, I think there's some truth to that, you know, and some of the people who felt let down, my thing publicly was never to say, well, no, I didn't let those people down. Like, I have always tried to say, like, one, I wrote to everybody on our email list, almost 15,000 people, a kind of a detailed accounting and apology for being where we were. And then even to that group privately, there was a group of maybe 50 or 60 people who said, hey, to us, we're not just a little bothered, we're really bothered by this. And I wrote that group an apology and attempted to kind of say, you know, what can we do to move forward in a way that's peaceful? And I think in some ways, people just felt like they needed to be heard. And I never made any attempt publicly to discount those people, to discount their frustrations, to say like, hey, these people are wrong.
Yeah.
And in a way, that was just my decision to say, listen, these people say they're frustrated. I have no choice but to believe them and accept their frustrations. I've apologized more times than I even thought was necessary. Even to this day, that's not how I wanted it to go. But I assure you, if I had to do it all over again, that was the best I had at the time. Like you know, there was not a moral failure. There was not a character flaw there. It was a really difficult moment, and working my way through it, I just thought that was the best thing I could do. And I think if Justice Together was alive today with me at the helm, it would be a mess. And I saw that back then and thought to myself, I have too much to lose. The people who were associating with this have too much to lose. And the cause has too much to lose.
Yeah.
Let's just shut it down and move forward and allow other people to step up. And I would do it. You know, I would do it all over again, and I would try to tweak it to be more sensitive. But some of those folk were going to be frustrated no matter what, man.
Yeah, I like what you said, man. I like your answer to that. And thank you for sharing that with us, because you have no obligation to even talk about it. So thank you for that. But two, I love the way you just put it. For the people who felt like you let them down, you just said, yeah, I did let you down. But, you know, there is life after that, though. You know what I mean? There's an ability to move forward and to continue to do good work. So I just want to thank you for taking the time to talk about that. And again, you didn't have to. So unless you have something else to say about that, let's go to something. Let's talk about Bernie Sanders for a minute, and then I'm gonna let you.